Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to this week's Mental Monday. I want to continue the serial killer series. This case that I want to talk about today, or this serial killer I want to talk about today, is probably one of the most high profile, well known within that group of individuals. And he's also one of the most interesting cases, I think, almost bar none, as far as psychoanalyzing just that whole mental aspect to it. And the person that I want to talk about today is Charles Manson. A lot of people have heard of Charles Manson. A lot of people know what he did. And so just for that aspect of it, I'm going to give a little quick synopsis of a general summary of his life. He grew up with very troubled parents who were in and out of jail. His dad was in prison for the whole last part of his life, and because of that he was taken into care by a family member, and then he was put in the foster care system, and from there he was placed in kind of a boarding home for boys, a correctional school almost, where troubled teens went, and that is where he first started getting the ideas for what he did. And if you aren't aware of the specifics of what he did, he was a cult leader. And not just a cult leader, but he was a cult leader who had people kill other people, who had them commit horrible murders, who had the goal of starting race riots and bringing in the end times, basically. And the way he did that was by manipulating his followers, like a cult leader does, and getting them to do his work for him. The very interesting aspect of Charles Manson is, while he was in prison till the day he died, he was not the one that committed the murders. He was not the one that went to the houses and committed the crimes. He was the idea man. He was the leader. He told them what to do. And in that aspect of it, the law held him responsible for it. And I think there was a lot of other little things that he maybe did that they tacked on, but the whole concept of it is he was the idea man. He was the one that had that image of what he wanted them to do and what he wanted to happen. And it was very scary, the ideas that he had. And it is very scary thinking of how easily he was able to manipulate them, to get them to do what he wanted, to get them to commit horrible acts so easily, so effortlessly. He was such a good manipulator. He was like the epitome of psychopathy, of a psychopath. He had no emotional connection to another human. He had no remorse. He had zero empathy at all. And he very much only ever saw other people as a means to an end, as a tool to be used for his desires. And that included women, that included manipulating others to create some kind of kingdom sense for himself where they adored him, they worshipped him. He basically called himself the new Messiah. I can't remember if he specifically said he was the second coming of Christ, but he put himself on that level for sure, and very, very much connected it to God and religion, and he manipulated them in that way. And a big major thing was Christ was going to come back and they were going to be gods with him, and they were going to hide out after they started the race wars and wait for the end to come. And a lot of what they did was not because they had particular disliking to anyone, really. I don't think he could have, because I don't think he really cared about them that much to have an opinion like that. But they were a pawn in his game. They were his tool for creating what he wanted to create. And a lot of that was surrounding a race war. He had heard the Beatles song, I can't remember what song it is now, that talks about Helter Skelter. And Helter Skelter is what was written on the wall in blood in one of the houses. I think it was Sharon Tate. It was written on the wall, and if you look up the definition of Helter Skelter, it says in disorderly haste or confusion. So basically it's like off kilter, off balance, chaotic. It very much led into their idea of the race war, and they used very derogatory racist terms to try to incite race wars. The way that he became a cult leader, or the cult leader, was, you can kind of see from the very beginning of his life. He grew up in Bakersfield in the crazy dysfunction of a family that he had. And he, from the beginning, was able to manipulate people. He got a taste of what it felt like to get somebody to do what he wanted them to do. And he kind of grew that and learned how to do it better. The first time he went to jail, he read 2 major books that influenced him. One was How to Get People to Do What You Want, I believe. It was a book about influencing, about being a leader in that way, and about getting people to do what you want. Being able to manipulation wasn't exactly the tone of the book, but he took it to that level. And he also read Hitler's Mein Kampf while in prison. And putting those two together is a very, very scary thing. So he started that, and when he got out, he started creating a group of people that he told this story to, of being the new Messiah, being the second coming of Christ, having an in with God, and being on that level. And it grew and it grew, and they were called the Manson family. They were located in Southern California and very involved in Hollywood. He was in with a lot of musicians. He really, really wanted to be a musician. And they had a commune where they all lived. He had multiple women that he had children by. He was constantly manipulating them into going to get things for him, into anything he could possibly think of. And as it went along and it grew, it started the process of things like the Sharon Tate murders happening. Sharon Tate was an actress that was very, very pregnant, and he told his followers, a group of his followers, to go to her house and kill her and anybody that was in the house with her. And then they wrote in blood on the wall, Helter Skelter. It was all a ploy to bring about the end times. They were starting that chaos. They were starting those wars. They were starting that tension and disorder and almost anarchy. I don't know if I want to say they were anarchists or not. They were very against the system. They were very against the law. They were very against the order of things, and he was able to get them to do these horrific acts. And then they got caught. They got found out after, and he was put in prison along with, I believe, a few of the followers that actually committed the acts. This case is one that has always intrigued me, just to think about how it is possible for somebody to get to that point, or somebody to have that kind of personality, what that's like, what that functions like in normal everyday life, and what's actually possible out of that. When somebody has such a manipulative personality along with zero empathy and remorse towards other people. So it's a very scary idea. It's a very scary story. It's very, very disturbing to think about him and what he did. I don't remember if he was actually sentenced to death. Because he didn't actually physically commit the acts, I tend to think not, from what I remember. But he died in prison. He died in prison at the age of 83, 84 this last year. And he was just very manipulative in a very scary way. So that is the profile or story of Charles Manson. If you have any questions about that, leave that in the comments below. I will link a podcast that I listened to about him and some other resources that I'm able to find. I got a lot of my background from watching documentaries and just facts I know about the cases, along with a podcast that I listened to that told almost his whole life story through being in prison. I will link that podcast below and any other info I can find. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you are subscribed and have notifications on. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye!